Hi everyone, welcome back to my fourth live this month in honor of National Adoption Awareness Month. And tonight we have Melissa Guida Richards joining us. Melissa and I just recently connected, and I reached out to her to see if she would like to be a guest on to talk about her story, and she said yes, and I'm so happy about that. So Melissa, oh, she's ready. Okay, we're gonna get started.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I was giving my dogs some peanut butter, so hopefully they don't bark.
Oh, it's okay. How was your day? I heard you say you're not feeling well.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the flu or what, but I've had a fever, and I normally get migraines, so I didn't think much of it, but it's been a migraine for almost a week. So
Wow.
I tried to get a COVID test, but they won't let you get tested around me unless you're dying. So, which is a good thing, I guess. But
Really?
So I'm basically isolating and just drinking lots of tea, and I can't smell or taste anything. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just keeping a close eye.
Oh, good. I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you hear me well and all?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. We have a few people joining already. That's good.
Hi, everyone.
I waved to everyone. I am adopted. Oh my gosh.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah. And I've been isolating too. I barely go out in general. So, but a bunch of people at my husband's job have gotten COVID. So that's, yeah.
What do you do
can't
for a
avoid.
living?
I'm a writer. I work at a magazine, The Every Mom, and I do that part-time, and the other half of the time I'm working on my books and my Instagram and my podcast. So,
Nice. Busy bee.
yeah.
That's great. Awesome. Okay.
Hey, Jenny.
Wow, we got a lot of hearts going on right now. Thank you so much for the love, everyone. And thank you for joining us tonight. I guess we can get started.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So I really kind of just give people, my guests, the wheel, So tell us a little bit about yourself and share your story. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, but I couldn't hear you. It just slowed down for some reason. I can hear you now.
Yeah, you were freezing up a little bit too. Okay. So I said I usually like to give people, my guests, just the wheel to start talking and just tell us about yourself and share your story. I'm just gonna
All
let you
right, sounds
talk.
good. Well, hi everyone. Hi everyone, my name is Melissa. I am 27 years old and I'm an international transracial adoptee. I was adopted from Colombia at about 5 months old, but I'm also a late discovery adoptee, which means I did not find out that I was adopted until I was 19 years old. And I actually just recently did a podcast interview and do the work about the experience, and it was the first interview I did with my mom. We actually spoke about the whole thing about me not finding out that I was adopted and the secret. And that's basically how I really started to become an advocate because of what happened to me. And I didn't want other people to have to go through a similar thing because it was very traumatic. I had to deal with a lot of identity issues over the past 2 years, and I struggled a lot in the beginning, and I didn't really know that there was such a huge community out there on Facebook and Instagram of other adoptees. And once I found it really helped me figure out who I was. It made me feel less alone, and I was able to kind of go on this journey not totally alone anymore. And I think that is what's so kind of difficult about being an adoptee. If you don't have huge support group or know other adoptees in person, like it can feel very lonely. And so that's how I kind of got into all this, and I began writing about 3 years ago about my experiences, and I am currently working on my next book, which will be out in fall 2021, and it's a book for thank you. It's called What a White Parent Should Know About Transracial Adoption, and I am basically creating this deep dive into the history as an adoptee and my perspective of the history, the nuances, and the ins and outs. And it's a very real book that will discuss all of the ethical issues, all of these things that usually aren't talked about. And I want to help families be prepared for everything that is involved with adoption, because I find that often we have this positive outlook all the time, and we need to take a more nuanced approach, I believe.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, yeah, so that's
Jenny
a little bit about me.
Barr said, so happy I found this community in you, Melissa.
Yeah,
so
Jenny, I'm so happy to know you. Really? My little guy, he's...
Apparently he has a story to tell too.
Yes. My husband actually just got me him for our 5th wedding anniversary, so he is nice. my little man. But yeah. Thank you guys for all joining us.
Yes, thank you. Adoptee Rising, I'm so excited for this. I can't wait to read. I am adopted, bring on the hearts. Yes, thank you for all the hearts. I see them floating all around. How's your reception on your end? Because you seem to be breaking up a little bit on my end.
It seems okay on my end. Can you guys hear us?
Okay. I can hear you, but it seems that some parts you're like kind of like spacing out a little bit.
Our power went out yesterday, so maybe
like right
that's something to do with it.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's Hannah said it's a bit delayed.
Right. Should I hop off?
Are you connected to your Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Yes, I could hear you both fine. Okay. Okay, so go ahead, continue on.
Okay. Well, they say it's just delayed. Okay. Well, sorry about that, guys.
Thank you, Sarah.
What else can I say? If you guys have any questions
about the book you were writing?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a guide for adoptive parents, but I also include a lot of resources for adoptees too.
Okay.
It's a big piece of like my heart. It's my passion project right now, because I am super excited to put a work out there that is by adoptees and for adoptive parents, that is so inclusive of different narratives. I have been surveying adoptive parents and transracial adoptees about their experiences, and it's including a lot of research. I have research piles that are like this big of peer-reviewed articles and all that stuff. So it's not just a blog post. It's a work that I know can help lots of people.
Yeah, definitely. Good. So just tell us about your story, just about finding out, you said at 19, right?
Yes. So it was back I was in sophomore year of college, and I went home during break, and I brought my boyfriend home for like the first time. And I remember it was like a really snowy day, and we went down to my dad's office because there's really not much to do. We live in a really small suburban town, and I was really bored, and I knew my parents had some of my like old school records and stuff in there. So I was just going through that and showing him, just being like a little nerdy, trying to impress my boyfriend, you know, type of situation. And then we find paperwork, and he's reading part of it, and he just stops and looks at me, and I'm just like, what's going on? And he's kind of like a little shocked, and he just hands it to me. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then I read it, and it says their adopted daughter, Melissa. And I just froze too, and I understood, like, what? I read it again, and I looked at him, and I was like, did you read that too? Like, am I going crazy? Does it say that? And we're like freaking out. I go through the rest of the paperwork in there, and I couldn't find anything else. And it was like my brother's adoption paperwork, which I had known that he was adopted, but my adoption paperwork, and my parents always told me that I was their daughter, that I wasn't adopted. And on my birth certificate, it even said, like, parents, Paula and Rocco, like my parents' names. It had all of their information on it. So, you know, I believed them. And so I waited for a bit, and my mom came home, and I confronted her about it. And I was like, hey, Mom, like, what's up with this? Is this true? Can I see my paperwork? And she flipped out. She absolutely lost it.
Really?
Yeah, she was very upset, and she kept like just screaming, like, I'm your mom, like, don't worry about that, like, you shouldn't have looked there. And we fought for a long time, and I told her that if she didn't give me my paperwork, I was going to walk out of that house and she wouldn't see me again, because I was that upset. And for me, it wasn't really about being adopted. Like, being adopted and not and that was upsetting, but it was the fact that she had lied to me for my entire life that had gotten to me. And my family, like my adoptive family, my mom and my dad, they had always told me since a young age that your culture matters, where you come from matters, your family matters, like, blood is more than anything. And then I'm not even related to them by blood. So it was like this huge betrayal that understandably was upsetting. And for about a year, I didn't talk to them. I talked to my dad a little bit because I believe that he really didn't have as much involvement in the decision that she did. And then after talking to my mom, she told me that it was her decision. So I just couldn't even deal with her. I couldn't afford like private therapy, so I was seeing the counselors at college, and they didn't know what to do with that.
Because they don't specialize in adoption.
Yeah. So they were totally unprepared, and their advice was horrible. They told me to just ignore them and never speak to them again. And I wasn't really cool with that. And so that's when I started to try to get involved with the adoptee community, and I joined Adoptees from Colombia. That was like my first group that I really talked to, and I told them a little bit about my story, and a lot of people were really supportive. A lot of people reached out to me, and yes, someone else said that because he's an Indian late discovery adoptee.
I just saw that. I was going to read it, but I don't want to interrupt you.
He says, it's the lie and deception that angers me about my late discovery as well. And yeah, it's the lie that kind of killed me, because as a child, you grow up, you think your parents are, they can do no wrong. And you grow up with this family, and they tell you who you are, and then that's what you believe, and you become very attached to what that is. And then having that lie come to light and learning this whole new identity, I felt so lost. I didn't know who I was, what to identify as, and like I found out that I was a multiracial Latina. I did a DNA test, and I was able to find a second cousin, and then I actually found two half siblings that were adopted into a different family in the United States.
Really?
And then this past year, I found my birth mom. So that was pretty cool. And
Yeah. How did that experience go for you?
uh, it's it's been really like awkward, to be honest, because there's this huge language barrier because I don't speak Spanish. Like I understand a decent amount, but not enough to hold a conversation. So I've been having to use a translator for every interaction, and she doesn't have, like, they live in a very poor area, so they don't really have Wi-Fi. So it's like just over the phone. And so I have to use a translator, and every time she gets on the phone, she cries. And she apologizes, and it's just so awkward to me because I didn't even expect to find her that soon. Because international adoption, it was a closed adoption. I had to go through an investigator, and they found her within like 3 days, which was crazy.
That's fast.
And yeah, so it was just a lot faster than I expected, and I mainly did it because I have a lot of health issues, and my son was having some health issues, and so I was like, we need to find some answers, and we need to know something, like in case it's really important. So that's what I found out. I found her, and she at first wasn't ready to talk to me and kind of was like, no, I'm not who you think I am. And then the investigators, their birth moms, they actually talked to her, and she was like, oh, okay, yeah, I am her. She sent over her ID to kind of prove who she was, and she knew like about my older sisters who she gave up for adoption first, and then me. And she told me about her family, and she's been married for many years after she gave me up. And so that's been something I've been working through, knowing that she has this other family, that she has other children and even a grandchild, and has kind of moved on. Like it's very difficult, I think, as adoptees to hear that your birth mother has other children, and she even kept my oldest brother, so that it's just very complicated. But yeah.
Wow. I'm actually going to ask Indian late discovery adoptee, how old were you when you found out? I can't believe there's so many people who found out so late in life.
Yeah.
I was 8, and I thought that was late.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. And
last year I was 34. Wow. I can't imagine finding out right now at 32.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
I think it's something that people don't expect to happen so often anymore, but it's something that does happen. And I wrote an article about my experience for HuffPo about being a late discovery adoptee, and it went crazy viral last year. And I had so many people reach out to me who had similar experiences, who weren't told that they were adopted until later in life, and even like biracial individuals who weren't told that they were Latino or Black or Indian or Asian until they were late in life. And that's such a big issue, the secrecy that goes in families in general. And I think it's something that needs to be discussed, and the importance of identity development and just learning about your culture as an individual is just so essential to your self-esteem and all these things. Just growing up, it's part of who you are. And if you don't have pieces of yourself until you're older, it makes everything so complicated. Chris said he took a DNA test for 5. You got more than you bargained for.
I got more than I bargained for. Oh,
Yeah. There's so many people now, though, that happens to, or they find out that their fathers aren't their fathers. It's so complex, and that's one of the reasons why I am so vocal about my story, because I believe if more people understood the trauma that it can bring upon, that they wouldn't do this, and they'll learn how it's important to be open with their adopted children.
Exactly. Even just among donor-conceived individuals, so many variations, right? For sure.
Yeah.
So, how do you think being adopted has affected you? Like, explain a little bit about that.
Well, I think it has affected me in many ways, and mostly just like identity. Since I was raised as Italian, and then finding out I was adopted, I kind of had to figure out who I was all over again, and then learn how to navigate both cultures and integrate them, and be less hard on myself, because as adoptees, I feel like we are often torn between different cultures and different families, and we can feel pressure to be more of one thing than the other, and then not enough of the other. And so in my day-to-day life, like, it comes up in such interesting ways, and I'm a mom of two beautiful boys, and I feel like it has come up even more now that they're getting a little bit older and understand more. And so I want them to be proud of who they are and their identity, but at times I feel like I'm not equipped enough to teach them how to be Latino, and I know that the world is going to view them as such. And my husband is biracial. He's Latino and Irish, but he takes more after the Irish side. So we're both kind of struggling a bit, because we have been pulled in two different directions for most of our lives. And now raising two Latino boys that look it, and we want to prepare them enough for how the world will see them, and also just to be proud of who they are, because I feel kind of like this shame for not speaking the language, for not speaking Spanish, for not knowing more about the food and the culture and all those things. But it's also teaching them that that's not all that matters. Like, I am Latina, whether I am perfect at cooking Latino meals or like speaking the language, that doesn't take it away. So being at a place where I can say that now, it's taken a lot of work and a lot of therapy.
Yeah. Good. So, and your boys know that you're adopted?
They hear me talk about it, but they're not really at that stage where they understand what it means. So, because they're only 4 and 3.
Oh, okay. So they're still young.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. How's your relationship with your mom now? Like your adoptive mother?
It's actually really good. And I think people are shocked to hear that. But me and my mom, we talk on the phone nearly every day. We go over each other.
That's good.
Yeah, like almost every week we alternate, because I live about an hour and a half away from my childhood home. And it took a lot of work for us to get here, but honestly, it's because we had all those hard conversations. We took a lot of time to discuss race and identity and the secrecy around my adoption. And since my work is mostly with my adoption advocacy, she sees it all on. She listens to my podcast, she reads my articles, and at first it was really difficult for her to read these things, and to read how much trauma I've experienced and the negative emotions I've had about my adoption, because for her, she said that it makes her feel like she did a bad thing in adopting me. but we've reached the point where she understands that I don't talk openly about adoption to make her feel bad. I talk openly about adoption because it's complex and people mostly only talk about the good things. And by sharing my story and the pain that I've went through, I've been able to connect to other adoptees who experience similar things. And you may know the statistic, but adoptees are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide. And I believe that strongly is for a reason, because a lot of us, we don't have that community. We don't have that open discussions with our families.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of secret shame and angst and all these complicated emotions that we need to talk about in order to be healthy. So yeah, exactly. she is my
you need
number
to have
one
a support
right
group
now.
behind you.
Yeah.
Good. And have your adoptive mother met your biological mother, or has she seen pictures?
She's seen pictures, but they haven't met. My adopted mom is still not crazy about me finding my birth mom. She's supportive of me doing it, but she'd rather not be involved. She's very possessive. She's like, "You're my daughter still." Like she's not at that place yet where she's cool with it, which I kind of get, the jealousy and everything. But my dad, he just passed away in this September, and he was actually super supportive of me finding my birth mom. And he was like, "When are you gonna visit? When are you gonna go back?" Thank you. But having him and his impact, and like him saying that I need to go visit my birth mom and I need to visit my birth sisters that I found here, that has encouraged me to have a deeper connection with them. So I make sure to check in with my birth mom every month. And me and my half sisters that are in the States, we talk almost weekly. We text, so we're having a pretty decent relationship, which has made me so happy, because I have 2 nephews, and we send updates to each other and pictures of our kids, and we're able to have that bond, which is just so special, because our kids actually look like each other, and I've never had that growing up. So
that's nice.
Yeah, so that's super awesome.
Nice. And you've met them, right? Like face to face? Have you hung out with them?
I've only met, no, not yet, because we live, we just talk. We live several hours away from each other, and at first it was like a complicated reunion, because none of us were really prepared for the emotions that it would bring up. So it took us about a year to actually work on our relationship and get to this place where we are able to talk to each other and be open with each other about our experiences being adopted. And hopefully once COVID is over, we will get to visit one another.
Good. That's great. Wow. So I think, so is anything, so you recently started, when did you start your Instagram page?
I started really getting into it about like 6 months ago. I started it to kind of advertise for my podcast and just have like a place where people could see my work and I could connect with other adoptees. And that's how I started getting into it. And it's just kind of grown from there. And I'm really, really happy with all the people I've met. I've met some really awesome friends and made some great friendships.
I can see a lot of support around here for you tonight. That's really nice.
Yes. I'm
I see Sarah from Adoption Wars is on. And she's actually going to be my guest tomorrow night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I'll have to stop by.
Yeah. So you mentioned a podcast. Is it called Adoptee Thoughts, or is it
Yes,
different?
it's the Adoptee Thoughts podcast, and it's
Okay.
basically anywhere where you can listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts,
Spotify, Apple.
Spotify. Yeah, all those
Okay.
places. And I interview other adoptees about their experiences. I've had
Okay.
many different people, Lauren Sharkey, I've had just dozens of interviews. I'm a little behind on publishing them because I've been so busy, but there are a lot of good ones that are coming out too. I am interviewing Nicole Chung this weekend, so I'm super excited about that. And then I've had other authors on it too, and those will be upcoming episodes. Once the new year starts, I'm going to start publishing more.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, I'm actually coming out with a podcast series in January, so I'm going to be working on that next month.
Awesome. I will
Yeah, so of
definitely be
course I would
looking
love
forward to that.
for you to come on and share your story on there as well.
Of course, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for having
So
me tonight.
of course, I'm so glad you said yes. So I wanted to ask you, I've been asking everyone who came on with me, just in a few words, what does adoption mean to you?
Adoption to me means complexity and growth and
You froze on me. You said complexity, growth,
pain.
and pain. Okay. Okay. That's good. That's good. Well, not good, but I like your answer.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think the last question, if nobody has any questions, they can ask. Feel free to ask us. I'm an adoptee as well, and that's why I'm doing this. What advice would you give other adoptees, and what advice would you give adopters?
For other adoptees, my advice would be is to find a community. There are different places where you can do that. There are forums, there are groups on Facebook, there's the Instagram, there's a whole bunch of us on the Instagram community, and just find your people, because all of us have had different experiences. Some of us have had amazing adoption experiences, and some of us not so amazing ones. And finding others who are going through such a similar thing to you and your experience, it can make you feel less alone, and it can help you with your own growth, and just make things a little less lonely. And for people adopting, my advice would be to be willing to do the work and learn about all the nuances within adoption and the ethical issues, as well as the wonderful different pieces that are often portrayed in the media and in adoption agencies. I feel like adoptive parents are so willing to do the work to find out different ways to speed up the process and to adopt a child as fast as possible, but often shy away from learning about racial issues. And I think that's very important for them to be willing to do as well. And it will only benefit your family in the long run. Someone has a question.
That is great advice. I'm an adoptive parent. My son is 15. He struggles with anger, mostly towards his mom. Any advice? We know that this has something to do with his biological mom, but it's so hard for us to receive his anger.
Well, my advice would be to find an outlet that he can express that anger safely and in a productive way. You know, art, music, journaling, even just like a physical activity, running. I used to, when I was at the beginning of this, I would used to listen to Eminem and just run every morning.
Yeah.
I would run and listen to Eminem. I think it's so important to show support for him and to understand that his anger is valid. I've been very angry at my birth mom at some times. I've been very angry at my adopted mom at some times. And it's because it's such a complicated thing being adopted, and learning that your mom gave you up to another family and wanted to do the best thing for you is just complex. And then I don't know your situation, but if he found out that he had siblings later on, like it's so complicated, and his anger is valid, and just teaching your child to learn how to embrace their emotions, good or bad, and having a proper outlet is just essential for just, you know, productivity as a human.
Allie, so this is my friend Allie Jameson. Yes, do the work. Exactly. And she said great answers. Allie herself has a support group every Tuesday night, I think at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. I'm going to let her put in the details if she doesn't mind. But after this month is over, I'm going to start joining her support group.
Definitely. And there are support groups out there for kids.
Yeah.
So if you look in your area, you might be able to find them. I know my friend Jessica Lucier, I believe, she has support groups for teens, and I think a lot of them are online now. One of the good things about COVID is that a lot of things are going online, so they're more accessible. And there's a lot of mentoring programs out there. I know HTRA has mentor programs, and Angie Adoptee, she has mentoring programs as well.
Jim Serino, boy, that's a hard one. I'm 59 and still deal with anger, but I train Muay Thai and that helps with my anger. Good. See, whatever helps. I mean, everyone's got to find their own thing that helps them, that helps manage their emotions.
Yeah.
Allie said, creative outlets help so much. Yes, they do. Yes, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Yeah, so she's on Pacific time. So they're 3 hours before us.
Okay.
I'm starting to offer more to adoptees of all ages and adoptive parents too. Good, Allie. Good. That's awesome.
Yeah. And
do you have anything?
Not right now. Yeah. I also have merch if you guys want to support me. I have Adoptee Thoughts merch. I have stickers, I have sweatshirts, t-shirts, and they're super comfy. If you are looking for more help and resources, I have a bunch of essays and links to my podcast, all at adopteethoughts.com. And stay tuned, because I am also going to be creating a support group for adopted parents and for adoptees once the new year starts.
Nice.
That will be a monthly thing for each group. So hopefully that will be getting started, I think, in February. That's my goal, to have that begin.
That's amazing. We definitely need more of that. Allie said, grateful for more conversation with adoptees. Keep it up, adoptee family. How did you get into writing? She wants to know.
I really started blogging, just like doing a mom blog after I had my first son about 4 years ago, because I was dealing with postpartum depression, and I struggled with a lot of anger and confusion after having my first child and being adopted, and just not understanding how my birth mother could have relinquished me and given me to an orphanage. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And the only way that I could process any of those things was by writing them down. And so I started off with a blog, and then I started writing short picture books, and then I graduated into essays, and now a memoir that I'm working on. And each essay has helped me process different parts of my adoption story. When I found my birth siblings through 23andMe, like I wrote an essay about it, and that helped me just figure things out. And when I found out I was adopted, like writing that essay really helped me figure out each part of it, and the good, the bad, and the beauty of the experience. And it's helped me see how good things can come out of pain, and you work hard and long enough at figuring yourself out. It's not just something sad, it can turn into something beautiful as well.
Of course. Yep. Well, that's amazing. So does anyone else have any more questions? You've received a lot of healing through writing as well. Yeah, Allie's done like a lot of self-healing, and she's such a beautiful person. You should definitely go follow her. And Allie, go follow Melissa, adoptee_thoughts. I write a
Yes,
lot
I will
to help
definitely
process
follow
my anger.
them.
Good for you, Indian Lake Discovery. That's good. Keep writing them down. So I think if you have anything else to add, or?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I'm so happy you came. You joined me tonight, and thank you for sharing your story and
Of course,
the work
thank
you're
you.
doing. It's amazing.
Thank you for having me. And I will make sure to follow Allie.
Yes, she's a beautiful soul, and she's my adoptee sister. She's an amazing person.
Awesome. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you all so much for joining, Melissa. It was so great. Thank you.
All right, bye, guys.
Have a good night.
You
Bye.
too.